Now, I went into the Bikeriders completely blind, never saw a trailer, didn't read the plot synopsis. All I knew was that Austin Butler and Tom Hardy were in a biker gang, and it was directed by Jeff Nichols. That was more than enough to get me to see it in theaters. And I gotta say, for the first half of the movie, I was really surprised and thrown off by the fact that at its core, The Bikeriders is actually a hangout movie told in the form of your run-of-the-mill crime drama, and that's easily its greatest strength, but also its weakness. There are more scenes of these guys just hanging out shooting the breeze as opposed to actually waging war with other biker gangs. And you know what? That actually felt super refreshing, because when you get down to it, what we do know for sure about these characters is that none of them joined this biker gang in order to be a part of organized crime. They all feel like outsiders in regular society, to the point where they just want a community where they can express themselves, do anything they want to without judgment whatsoever. And even when they do mafia things like retaliate on other people for beating up their crew or burning down buildings, it's more out of loyalty to the other bikers like brothers, or for pride in order to preserve their reputation. So when they start allowing other people to form their own chapters of the gang and they're considerably more rowdy and unpredictable, these guys are genuinely concerned that their original concept for the club is completely vanishing. And I have to say, they got a great cast of actors who could have played such lovable misfits if they were given the proper material. They all tried doing that specific accent that you can't tell whether it's New York or Jersey until you look at their colors and you realize it's actually Chicago. But their voices were era appropriate, and they all have this unique way of speaking with lots of awkward silence or repeating their sentences or each other's sentences like a Tarantino script to really show how bad they are at socializing unless they're with each other as a group. Austin Butler is good at being a literal rebel without a cause who's so afraid of expressing himself or any emotions whatsoever. And what's fascinating about him is that he's not interested in bossing anyone around or being a leader in any way. He joined this group just to do whatever the fuck he wants whenever. Tom Hardy's voice is as cartoony as you can imagine it would be, even if, like me, you never saw a trailer. There's even a couple scenes in this where the characters have no fucking idea what he's saying, but he's easily the most fleshed out character in this gang because he's trying to instill this code of honor and have some form of rules and order within this group while still giving them the independence that they seek out. There's one guy in the middle of the film who wants to join, and Hardy gives him an ultimatum. You can join, but just you, not your friends. And when the guy instantly ditches his friends, Hardy ditches him because he has no loyalty. He just wants to join this group to be cool. But at the same time, once he allows other people to form chapters, they're more tighter wound than others, and when his lessons start falling on deaf ears, he becomes more ruthless and less the original person he was meant to be. And I really wish I could say more about these characters. But you have so many good actors like Boyd Holbrook, Damon Harriman, a completely unrecognizable Norman Reedus, and Michael Shannon, who's actually harder to understand than Tom Hardy of all fucking people, but these guys barely get a fucking thing to do. Michael Shannon especially is somehow tossed into the background for so many scenes where you can clearly tell he and a bunch of these other actors were supposed to have more screen time. I have no idea how long this movie was originally supposed to be, but it got severely trimmed down because these side actors get fucked over so many times. You instantly forget their storylines, their personalities, the very little backstory that they actually share about each other, and that's really the big issue with the Bikeriders. It spends way too much time telling us what the movie's about as opposed to actually showing it. We never actually see these characters' backstories play out, what their lives were like before they joined the gang, what their interactions are like outside amongst regular people, or with their own friends and family, the things that actually motivated them to join this club and find a community in the first place. And these guys have such similar personalities where they're all wise guys to the point where even when you can tell one from the other, they're all just completely indistinguishable from each other. And I'm sure that's the point, that they're so similar that they have this instant connection. But even friends with 90% of shit in common, they still focus on the 10% once in a while. And Jodie Comer as Butler's wife is the worst character in this because her entire purpose is just to be the narrator, providing a ton of exposition about shit we either never see, like her life before she met up with this gang, or what her marriage is actually like with Austin Butler. We never get any downtime where the two of them are just husband and wife, which is really important because when she's not spoon-feeding us the plot, she's the generic mob wife who's just constantly saying, "This is dangerous, let's fucking book it." And the mob wife is just the wrong character to narrate this kind of story because, like I said, she barely shares any screen time with any of these guys, let alone Austin Butler. If anything, she had more chemistry with Tom Hardy because, to his character's credit, he does actually look out for the bikers' girlfriends like they're one of their own, and that may be like one of the most sympathetic things about his character. But I mean, why should I care if she's saying, "This is dangerous, I don't want you riding, let's get out of here," when the two of them, I don't think, even kiss in this movie? All we get is like this one sentence where she gets a ride from him, experiences what it's like being on that bike, and then just says, "5 weeks later, I married him." Is that it? Like, how many of your scenes were on the cutting room floor, honestly? And the weird thing is, most of her narration is done in these two separate interviews with the real-life photojournalist who actually made a book this movie is based off of, played by a ridiculous-looking Mike Faist. And what bothered me about that is, not only does Mike Faist get underutilized once again, which is a shame because he's a really great actor, there are scenes of him actually interviewing the bikers where we get like those fourth wall breaks. The characters are looking at the camera and he's actually interacting with them as they're just living their lives or getting into a couple of rowdy fights. And I'm just sitting there wondering, why the fuck isn't he the narrator? Why aren't there more scenes of him actually hanging out with these guys? Because what's cool about the dynamic between him and the gang, when we actually get it, is that he's a polar opposite to them personality-wise and philosophically, and they let him know that whenever they can. But they let him document them because most average people don't want anything to do with biker lifestyle. So when he's actually asking, "What got you into this? What do you love about it?" they're genuinely curious, and it's the kind of attention that they're craving. There's not really much else I can say other than the Bikeriders feels like a TV show just crammed into a less than 2-hour movie, and that's never a good sign. As unremarkable as The Many Saints of Newark was, now that I've looked back on it, and in retrospect, it wasn't as good as I remember it to be, but I still think it's better than people give it credit for because I do remember the characters in that. I remember Chrissy's dad. I remember Ray Liotta as the Dr. Melfi substitute. Michael Gandolfini was good as his old man and could have had more scenes to really show that. Vera Farmiga, Corey Stoll fit those characters perfectly. There was thought and attention that offset the fact that it was too short for its own good. With the Bikeriders, it's just rushed and full of so many missed opportunities that I felt disappointed. And I have to say, this movie almost went to streaming because of the strikes. This feels like a streaming movie to a fault, and I would encourage you guys to wait till it comes out on Hulu or Disney Plus to seek it out. You might still enjoy it, but yeah, it just felt like such a letdown seeing it on the big screen. But in any case, guys, thanks as always for watching. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the Bikeriders. Be sure to check me out on Patreon and buy me a coffee, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.